Hi, this is Ben of Codpix. Thank you for listening to my talk today. I want to share with you my thought about virtual photography. The reason I bring this up again over the few episodes I upload earlier about the spectrum of photographic activity from being on site, being on location, to massaging your light sources, to post editing, to being very manipulative over the pictures, like a highly composite creation of yours, very artistic, or even going to the abstract side. So there's a whole spectrum of photographic activities. Being creative, that you could pick the right source of light physically, or you could create your own lights, that sort of thing. So this whole spectrum of it, and these are all 2D. Then I came across YouTube on this fantastic scene that you're seeing, that people using Blender, an open source 3D modeling tool to it's been quite a while with Blender being used in the industry to do animation and 3D modeling, and it's a fantastic piece of software. But I never thought that I could ever make use of it in 2D kind of creation. And then since I've been thinking about how much we could manipulate our photos, there are different camps, if you use the word, different. There are people who really want to stick to the physical reality. There are people who are very manipulative over their in the post, over their creation, over their captures. So we're not here to talk about right or wrong. It's just observations and options that the photographer could choose. So I was thinking, if we could push the extreme, you look at this 3D creation, they did fantastic show and tell on how they could make out a 3D model of a virtual landscape. So again, we're using the word virtual now. It's just a virtual landscape being not real. That's landscape. But if you think further down the road, that you could create virtual studio, for example, where you do portraits, and portraiture, you have a model, which is human being, but you could 3D scan, lidar scan that model. Or in the future, when everybody has their own portfolios of point clouds, where you scan your head and face and even body, whatever, then what you need to do is just to submit or pick one of those point cloud file, load it up, then you have your model. And that model, he or she doesn't need to be physically there, obviously. It's just the point cloud being sent to you. And with that, you could, of course, in any 3D modeling tool, you could create virtual scene, background, all these are virtual, and the light sources, you could create as many as you can. It doesn't matter. All these special effects, anything. Your camera is like you are shooting from within your model, so it's like a meta. It's like a virtual reality kind of world. And as a photographer, you are actually doing your creative work inside a virtual 3D model, or one of the many that you pick or your client picks, and then you become a virtual photographer. That's certainly possible. So I spent some time trying to have a feeling of it. Then I try to learn, spend a day or two. I think I watched a lot of those YouTube tutorials, and thanks to those guys who share and teach how to do simple modeling. And this is one of those. And basic, they do donuts most of the time because of the steroid built-in shape that Blender comes with. I was using 3.0 something. Oh no, 2.7 something. And anyway, that I went through the process, tried to create certain texture, and is from a light point of view. Like if you look at it carefully, you could see that I have a light source, the key light from here, and I have another fill light with a little spotlight, and just to fill this area here. And I of course I could make it brighter and so on. Doesn't matter. I tried different sorts, and this is one of those which I think is alright for me. I like the texture actually, even though some of those are not very perfect, like this color shade here with the white. It seems the white wash away a little of the red, and the red seems to a little too much. But these are experiments, and when I was doing these, I was comparing with many of those Photoshop things for studio portraits, where the Photoshop editor would do similar thing. They try to perfect the face, skin tone, everything. Sometimes to the extent that I myself feel it's not very real, because the real person is not that perfect, but the output of the Photoshop becomes so virtual, so perfect, that is in sync with the feeling I have when I was doing the Blender job. What I want to bring up is, when I was doing the Blender job, I obviously I was being fully conscious about it being virtual. Virtual meaning it's not associated with physical reality. And that compared with when you do a normal legacy studio shot with a physical human model, and then you are doing post to make it perfect, and or you push it further, you create all these manipulative composite pictures and adding this and that into it, and that's your artwork. It's pretty much the same, isn't it? Because you are consciously making a virtual presentation of your creative work. Compared with there are photographers who just take one shot. Even in the frame time, the darkroom might do a little push and this and that, but it's not like composite picture. There might be composite, but it's not to the extent, you know what I mean? It's not that much manipulative. Nowadays, you don't know. It's just, you call it fake, or I now call it virtual. So maybe the word virtual is a little more positive. So at the end of the day, I experienced this Blender thing. Then I was thinking, if we all are heading towards a heavy post kind of world, which we are, because people are saying there are obviously much less percent of photographer which would just not doing any post straight out from camera. Even the camera itself would have slight pose in the automatic sense, but it doesn't matter, just the way that you don't consciously make any changes. that's one camp, but that camp is tinier and tinier, and majority of us are heavily doing all sorts of different poses to the photos. And if that's the trend, at the end of the day, this 3D thing here, I would say that is going to be quite key in, if you consider the technology, when you push the technology to an ever-increasing resolution, to an ever-increasing CPU and gear speed, that you could render this 3D thing in a much shorter time and make it much easier to do, even with your mobile phone, for example. Well, but no, that's too much a short to call for. But like, anybody could create a 3D model, and anybody could easily do a high resolution little LiDAR scan. Then the modeling becomes much easier. More neural network stuff are being added to these tools and making texture creation, landscape, or human skin kind of automation much easier. At the end of the day, there would be more and more of these virtual reality coming in, and when it applies to photography, that means we will be getting into a virtual photographer world where we create where we conduct our creative activities within a virtual world. When it goes that further, then we don't need consequences. We don't need our physical camera. We don't need, or maybe we need camera, but the cameras are not used to capture a scene like that. It might be used to pick or collect materials from the real world, like the texture of rocks, the texture of this and that, and bring those materials, like footages, back to the virtual world to be pasted or manipulated within a much desirable virtual environment. And if that's what the majority of people want to look at, then we are essentially not using physical photography anymore. Not our photographer in the real world. We don't need to go out and take any pictures. We all stay home or stay in office and immerse ourselves into our virtual reality and conduct our creative activities within the computing, the virtual world that we create. That sounds to me very likely, but at the same time, that also makes us fall further and further away from the physical world that we originally was from. Would that replace it? I don't know. It probably would coexist. There would be a whole bunch of physical reality photographer insisting that they do that part of the job. But the rest, the majority of the rest of people might go into the new world where they might be able to be more creative. Yeah, that's one of the observations. So to conclude, my point to bring this up is to tell myself that that I need to be conscious about it, that I need to know the difference, that I need to be open-minded to look at the possibilities in advance. Maybe I need to learn more about 3D modeling. Maybe I need to spend more time out there in the wild, on location, so that I could collect enough experience or memories when when the whole world goes into virtual eventually. So at least I have some memories of the great old world. Those I don't know. I try to remind myself I'm not here to make a judgment of this is bad, that's good. I might hint about that, but then I keep telling myself that this is not the right way to say anything is good or bad. It's the diversity kind of natural evolution towards in this case a virtual thing. Wherever we are already very virtual in many of the cases, but um, when the VR goggle are getting more mature, lighter, high resolution, and being more embedded, maybe I enjoy that more than sitting right in front of a screen and monitor, being so aware of that we still have this spatial relationship. But in my mind, in my heart, I do enjoy having a fully immersed environment in a goggle. That applies to maybe photography, where there are times I like to be being virtual, being able to fly around in my virtual world and take drone shots from my virtual body where I could fly around. Imagine you could carry your camera in your model, in 3D model, where you could fly around instead of just flying a drone. You could actually fly around and take shots, and that's a whole different game. So yeah, that's the point of today that I want to share with you. And when that happens, all these gear thing, lens and things like those are being obsolete. We don't need those things. Everything can be created by the math and the sheer computing power of our technologies. And they all follow very good physical laws. And it's flawless. It's all this Photoshop thing, all these people are trying to perfect, and with perfect skin tone, computer generated ideal fuzziness, ideal noise environment, that sort of thing. So let's see, and I do hope I could make more videos about this topic, because I find it very intriguing, very interesting. It's quite new, I guess, even though there are obviously much more videos about this, in particular in landscape, in this particular topic. So I will watch it and experience it and see how it goes. Thank you for listening, and if you want to have anything that you want to share, please comment, and in time, if this is being watched by someone who of a similar mind, please do contact me or leave a message so we could learn more about this topic and grow through it. Thank you so much, and enjoy. Take care. Cheers.